Hi, it's Raquel with Balloon Splendor. I have a new template here. It's balloon arches, and the subject I'm going to talk on today is how to use these for mocking up an entrance. So let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and open up a picture of an entrance I found on the internet, just a building entrance. And let's talk about what you're on the site and you need to take a look at some dimensions. You want to be paying attention to some of the details here. I do believe this is an outdoor entrance. It might be inside of a mall. So you're on site, customer says, I want a balloon arch over my door. So obviously you're going to take measurements. You want to make sure that whatever arch you get actually clears the doors, because these doors are going to have to swing open and closed. You're also going to be taking a look at obstructions. One thing I've become aware of lately are the little wheelchair buttons. You want to make sure that when you put your arch up, you're not blocking any wheelchair buttons for ADA compliance. You want to make sure you're not blocking any exit signs. Sometimes there's exit signs over doors. And you also want to be looking for rigging opportunities. Let's say they wanted to do, I don't know, a linky balloon arch and they wanted it up for a week and you're not feeling secure about it, so you're thinking, I might need to rig it. So you're going to want to look for rigging opportunities. There's some lights here. Lights may or may not be a good idea to rig to depending on what kind of housing they have. There may be opportunities up above. If it's a drop ceiling, you may be able to attach a little click magnet to it and use that as an anchor point. Anyway, these are things that you're going to want to be looking for. If the arch is going to be up against a wall, put your hand on the wall. Check the texture of the wall. Make sure it's not going to be abrasive against the balloons. If the arch is going to be outdoors even for a couple of hours, take a look and pay attention to where the sun is, or the path of the sun. Is this a north-facing entrance or is it an east or west-facing entrance? Remember, the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. You're also going to want to take a look and determine if this is going to be a wind tunnel issue. Other things you might want to consider is, what if a family of children walk by and are thoroughly engrossed in the balloons? Are you going to be installing a balloon arch that will endure curious little fingers? Or heaven forbid, a dog comes up to it and decides to, I don't know, bite at the balloons. I had a friend of mine who had a dog that went absolutely rabid over balloons. So these are all things that I want you to consider, to think about, so that when you do put together your balloon arch and the customer asks you questions, you can say, well, I thought of that. This is why I made these choices. I think this will be a better fit for you, etc. All right, so let's talk about scale. For purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to say that this dimension right here is 7 feet, which is 84 inches. So to scale this, I've said in other videos, I like to scale everything 1 inch on my drawing to 1 foot in reality, or 12 inches. So it's a 1 to 12 ratio. So there's a few different ways that we can do this. You can literally drag the image up to where it says 0 up here, or you can drag it so they're both at the 0 mark, like right about there. Oops, let's move this over a little bit more. That's one way you can do it. So it's at the 0 there, and then you can just enlarge it until the bottom of the door here shows up at the 7. Oh, that's interesting. The whole thing kind of slides around a little bit. That's okay, we can just practice moving it. So that's one way to do it. It's a very quick way to do that. So a little bit more there. And if you find yourself getting too big, you can always zoom in and out. I find myself zooming in and out a lot while I'm working on it, and then I will save the picture and make it a reasonable size for sharing with the client. A little bit more up. Okay, yep, that's good there, and a little bit bigger here to make it at about 7. So I'm putting my cursor here, and when I do that, I can see where the line is here. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just kind of checking it there. So it's a little bit below that and little bit below that. Okay, so that's about 7 feet. The other way you can do it is you can drop a line down and make note of what that measurement is here, 7.19 inches, and using my ratios for balloon designs spreadsheet, you can plug that in. So if the drawing shows 7.19 inches, in reality that is 84 inches, that can work. Or let's say we were still working with the drawing kind of small here, and let's see here, let's go ahead and remeasure that to 4.79 inches. So at 4.79 inches, in reality that's 84 inches. If I wanted to know what an 11-inch balloon would look like, it would be 0.62 or 0.63 inches in the drawing. Okay, so we'll go ahead and work with it small. So I'm going to go ahead and change my numbers here. The drawing, 4.79 inches equals 84 inches. That's my ratio. All right. Oh, I just got rid of my, that's not what I wanted to get rid of. I wanted to get rid of this little line right here. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and leave this here, and because I have all of my arches saved as building blocks, I'm just going to pull them out of my building block, out of my page part button up here. All right, so let's say they don't have much of a budget. We're going to look at a linking balloon arch. You can either use this one or you can use this one here with the quads, either way. With the quads, the balloon arch is a little heavier, so I would probably be considering rigging that if it's going to be up for any length of time. All right, so how can, okay, so first I want to make sure that my balloons are scaled to this drawing. Now going back here, if I were to inflate the quick links or the linking balloons to 11 inches, let's say it's a 12-inch balloon, but let's say I just wanted to inflate it to 11 inches to allow for expansion or whatever in the heat. I want to make sure that the balloon is 0.62 inches wide. So I'm going to go ahead and click on a balloon. Those little the little circles show up, and that tells me that balloon is selected, and it's at 0.58 wide. So I'm going to go ahead and just grab this and pull it up until it's about a 6.2. Okay, little smaller, little smaller. That's probably close enough for what we're doing. Okay, so that's pretty darn close to being scaled. So I'm going to go ahead and center this. I'm going to leave it up high so that the name can be shown, right? They probably don't want their name blocked. Okay, so now what? We need to pull these legs down. A couple of different ways to do it. The way I like to do it is I just ungroup them, and I'm going to select the two bottom ones, and I do that by holding my shift key down and clicking them, and I'm going to go ahead and group those two, and I'm going to do a control C and a control V on my PC, and I'm going to pull those down, and then I'm just going to use my arrow keys to put it right where I want them to be. Okay, that's a little, I don't like that. That's better. Okay, so now I'm going to select that, and I'm going to also select the one above it, and I can control copy and control paste, and now I've got two more I can pull down just like that, and kind of bump them into place there, and then I can do another control paste, and the last thing that I had copied will be pasted again. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that one by selecting it and hitting delete. So there's a really simple quick link arch. You can color it in, do whatever you want to do. So that's how I would do that, and then I would select the whole thing, and I would group it, and then I would right click, and I would save it as a picture, and in my little example folder I'm going to go ahead and do JPEG, and I'm going to do Linky Arch. Okay, so let's go ahead and ungroup that, and my publisher is, okay, let's go ahead and ungroup that and get rid of the arch. So I'm going to go ahead and select that and get rid of it. So let's see, what other kind of arch do I have in here? Let's look at these columns with the fronds on them. That might be kind of fun. So I'm just going to grab the corners and I'm just going to pull them out until I like the proportions. Okay, that might be kind of fun. That's kind of big. So I may actually have to pull this forward a little bit more. So this would actually be sticking out maybe closer to this beam here. Or if I do want it right next to the wall for clearance, we could either go bigger, or I can ungroup these and straighten the columns out a little bit. Just depends on how much work you want to do. We can also ungroup it and maybe just position the fronds up a little bit more. So here's yet another reason why I like to do my digital mock-ups, because in my mind's eye I might see something that I think would work really well, and when I start drawing it I can see, the fronds might be a problem. Maybe I don't want to do fronds, maybe I want to put stars on top instead, or I might have to go up higher than I thought I did, or maybe when I get there I'm just going to position the fronds so they just, come out one way or another. So another good reason to be doing these. Okay, so I've got this. Let's say the customer loves it. How big do I inflate the balloons? Well, again, you can click on a single balloon and you can see that my balloon isn't perfectly circular, but it's about a 0.6. About a 0.6. So if the drawing is 0.6, that is about a 10.5-inch balloon. That's a pretty big balloon. But that's how big it would be if you wanted to do that. So if this were outdoor, I'd probably be using a 16-inch balloon size down to the 11-inch, is that what it said? To the 10.5 inches. If it were indoor, you might be able to get away with it. If you want to use a smaller balloon, then you would obviously have to, let me regroup that for just a moment. I just ungrouped everything. Okay, and we're going to go up and lock the aspect ratio. Okay, if we wanted to go with a smaller balloon, that's a 0.51, so that's about a 6-inch balloon. That's probably a little small. Let's go about almost a 0.6, okay, which is, that's back up to the 10, so maybe we do keep it down to around a 5. So anyway, what you can do is you can go ahead and ungroup the whole thing. Well, let me do it this way. I'm going to pull it up to where I want the top of it to be. Okay, about there. And then I'm going to ungroup it and just select these bottom clusters. Okay, so something to know about Publisher. If I were to just grab it here and select like I oftentimes do, it's going to select this big picture. So if you'd have to start outside the picture and come up like that, and then it will just select these items. So I can copy and paste, and I'm going to go ahead and group that so I can copy and paste it again if I need to. Okay, so now I've made the arch a little bit bigger, and it's still floating out there, so I'm going to go ahead and paste it again. And pull it down a little bit more. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and delete this bottom row, I think. Alright, so you've got an example of what it would look like at 10.5 inches and then at closer to 8 inches. Is that what it was? 0.51. Yeah, closer. Yeah, almost a 9-inch balloon there. So that's how the math works. That's how sizing works. Obviously, you can size it to whatever you want to work with. So that's another example. And again, you can select the whole thing, you can group it, and you can save it. I just right-clicked to bring up this menu. You can do a Save As Picture, or you can go up here and do Save As. And we can go to the desktop where I've got my examples. We're going to save it as a JPEG, and we're going to call it columns with fronds. Okay, so now you've got two examples that you can share with your client. All right, so let's go ahead and get rid of all that and take a look at another arch. Let's see. I created this linky balloon arch, so let's go ahead and put that in. I just enlarged it to make it fit the doorway. Now understand that we're working in 2 dimensions here. In reality, this arch may be, how thick is this balloon? It's 0.67 inches. 0.67, so this is almost a 12-inch thick balloon. So this would be sticking out at least 12 inches, and if you ended up doing it in the square, where they're like cubes, that's going to be double that. It's going to be, well, it's going to be the length of it. And the length of the balloon is 0.88. So it'll be at least 15 inches thick. By the time you get your little duplets in there, it's about 1.5 feet thick. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about if that's going to work or not. And taking a look at this picture, it appears there's a little bit, the door is set in a little bit. It looks like it's only a few inches, so I don't think that's going to be an issue. All right, so that's another option. I'm uncomfortable putting a quick link balloon down here, so I would probably, when I'm actually building it, I might use a 350 or maybe a 646 that's a little bit flatter so that I'm not getting that rounded balloon down at the bottom, or I might make these quads a little bit bigger to make it flat. But that's just me. So let's say that we actually wanted the arch to span a little bit bigger. I just realized that my example covered up the name. They're probably not going to like that. Okay, so let's just say we made it a little bit bigger. So how do we do that? So I'm going to go ahead and pull it over here, because we want it to clear here and go all the way over, and we're going to make it a little bit bigger. So let's go ahead and ungroup it, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and select it. All right, we'll select that and regroup that, and I'm just going to hold my shift key down and I'm going to pull it over until it's where I want it to be. Oh, about there. And then I'm going to, since I know these are all ungrouped still, I'm going to come in and I need to do, okay, so we're going to go ahead and grab some of these clusters, and I'm going to copy and paste, and I'm going to drag them over. And my little guidelines are showing me about where I need to be, so I'm going to paste that again and do it again. Okay, so little issues with the spacing there, so that's when we start selecting everything and moving things around. And you fine tune it until you're happy with it. And then obviously you're going to be ungrouping, selecting various balloons to pull them forward and pull them backwards so that everything looks as it should, etc., etc. Okay, so then we can reselect the whole arch again. I'm going to deselect it all and then reselect it, or regroup it. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm using the wrong terms. And I'm going to do that again. I'm going to ungroup, ungroup, and then I'm going to, there it goes. Okay, so now that's all one unit. So now how big are my balloons? Are they still the same size? They should be. 0.67 and 0.88. I can go over to my spreadsheet. They're 11 and a half, almost 12-inch balloons, almost 15 and a half inches long. If you don't want to live with that, you can make the balloons smaller and you can increase them just like I showed you with the other arch. Let's see here. You can ungroup it and you can just select, oops, I'm going to group that. You can select a few of them, copy and paste, and you can drag them down. If you want to make that, if you want to make the balloons themselves smaller, but you still need to keep the height of the arch, that's how you do that. You can keep making them, as big as you want, and then you can take the whole arch, group that. I just ungrouped it again. Group that and lock your aspect ratio to keep the proportions correct. Grab the corner and you can shrink it up. So you're using a smaller balloon, and then you can just resize it to make it fit. Okay? So let's say you wanted to do the columns on either side, but you really didn't want to block the name. Well, you can ungroup it and you can get rid of all that, and you can just do a couple of columns, right? So we can regroup, copy and paste, and drag it over to the other side, and maybe you come up with a different kind of embellishment to go up and over it, whatever you want to do. Maybe it's just a row of balloons, row of linking balloons. Let's see, how can we do that real quick here? Let's select that, group it, copy, paste. Let's rotate it 90 degrees, and you can just plop it right up there. And you can fuss with it until it's exactly where you want it to be. I ungrouped that. So you can see we're grouping and ungrouping. You can spend a lot of time going back and forth, and I didn't group everything there. I missed that one row to the left. There we go. So, alright, so without boring you doing everything over and over again, this is more, I did it again, didn't grab it again. It's more about showing you the different techniques of how to use Publisher to get what you need. There we go. And if you're not sure how balloons connect up in a like the linky arch, pull up a picture of a linky arch that maybe somebody else has done, or you can go onto qualitex.com and take a look at theirs and pay attention to how it's put together. And that way you know where to position your connectors, your other pieces like that. Okay, so there's a couple more options that we can do there. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this. And what other fun toys do I have? I do have just a regular garland arch. I'm not going to show you that. I did take the time to build a Ciara arch. This is one that I've seen on Facebook quite often now. It's become quite popular. The one with the little balloons and the larger balloons. I think Eduardo Satie is the one who created this, Brazilian balloon artist. That's how come I know how to pronounce Ceará, C-E-A-R-A arch, because that's my native language. Okay, so I did an interesting grouping on this. I can change it all white, and if I ungroup it once, and if you select like this outside color, I did it so you could color them in all at once. So I'm going to select that inside color, do something you can see, just like that. And I did that by selecting the balloons in the layer and then grouping them together instead of going in and coloring in each individual balloon. So that works if you're doing like 3 different colors and all your little balloons are one color and all the outside balloons are another color. If you're actually creating a pattern, like a spiral pattern where each of these are different colors, then you're going to have to go in and color them individually. But should you purchase my templates and want to color them in, know that that's how I have them grouped. There's 3 different groupings, and you can see the little lines show up as I hover the mouse over the different layers. So that's kind of cool. Okay, so we've got our little arch here. How big do we make the balloons? I'm going to go ahead and zoom in a little bit on this. So let's go ahead and click on this little one right here. and it's 0.32 inches. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to go ahead and delete some of these other ones. 0.32 inches, that means this is a 5.6 inch balloon. And this one here is 5 inches wide. So we're going to go not 5 inches, but 0.5. So that's an 8, almost an 8 3/4 balloon. And then the outside balloon is 0.58 wide. There it is. So that's how big the balloons are going to have to be for an arch that is scaled like this. If you want to use smaller balloons, that's fine. You'll have to enlarge your arch. Let's go ahead and select that whole arch again and regroup it. Come back here and do a lock aspect ratio again. And let's say you really wanted the balloons to be smaller and more delicate. We can do that. And again, I'm going to go ahead and center it a little bit better there. And again, we can ungroup it and copy and paste down to the floor. All right, so I think that's the arches I included. Let me look here. Where is, oh, there is one more. I did include a string of pearl arch. So let's see here. My string of pearl arch is right there. Well, that's interesting that it did that. Oh, I know why. Okay. It's because I did a fill on my line and there's no fill on it. There we go. I'll have to fix that in the template. Alright, so we know these are 11-inch balloons and I've got it at 0.28, but if I want the reality to be 11 inches, then the drawing has to be 0.62 inches. So we need to make that bigger. And I didn't do my lock aspect ratio. I wish there was a button here that I could put that on, put a button right up here and make that easier. Okay, so 0.62 inches for just a balloon. A little bit bigger, 0.55. Okay, there we go. And then we can come in and drop in some balloon columns. And scale that down. I like to make my balloon columns with 8-inch balloons. So what would an 8-inch balloon be? In reality, if I want it to be 8 inches, then it needs to be 0.45, or about 0.45. Oh, it's pretty close. A little bit smaller. Okay, so that's probably about an 8-inch balloon there. And we'll go ahead and move my arch there. Copy and paste for 2 columns. And so what I need to do is, ungroup my arch and delete some balloons, clean it up a little bit. I think I deleted too many. Yeah, I did. So go ahead and keep that one deleted. And we'll go ahead and delete that one too. Okay, so I'm going to regroup. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of my arch line there. I really don't need that. Okay, so these things, you know, you just fuss with it until it's where you like it. And you can always force the curve of the arch. So how to do that? You build your circle and you get it about where you want it. You know, maybe you want it up a little sharper. I'm going to go ahead and take the fill out of there, and I'm going to turn my circle red so I can see it. Okay, so let's say that's the shape of the arch you wanted right there. You can grab these balloons individually. Let's see. Okay, at this point I would be moving my picture out of the way so I can grab what I need to grab. we can go ahead and, so this balloon would be the one sitting like right in the column, right? And you just very painstakingly sit there and move your balloons around. And depending on how anal you are about it, you can fuss with it until it's perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and select my circle and send it back so I can grab my balloons a little bit easier. Okay, so a shortcut obviously, whoops, I'm meant to delete these. Okay, a shortcut obviously would be if you get your first balloon positioned right in the middle, and I'm using this as the middle point, and you do the rest of them, you can just copy and paste, like, whoops, let me get down a little bit lower. What am I doing? Okay, there we go. You can literally group these, copy and paste, and do a rotate. There we go. And drag it over to the other side. There you go. And then we can get rid of our guide and drag our picture back into place. Pretty slick, huh? There you go. And then you just kind of move things around as you need to make everything centered. Alright. So if I were going to be proposing a pearl arch here, obviously I would be measuring to see how high this beam is and make sure my arch doesn't exceed that. Alright, so I think that pretty much covers the balloon arch template. There were several arches in there. Let me see if I can pull up the, yep. Do I want to save my changes? No, I don't want to save my changes. Yes, I want to discard them. There they are. That's the template that I currently have. It's going to go up on Etsy here for the $25. So if you have any questions, give me a call. If there's something you want me to create, I would love to do that for you. My name is Raquel with Balloon Splendor.